It's been clear. My next claim is global agency says Nigeria economy is improving. Economy is on the right track.
That's increased the poverty rate in a country.
Okay, so when there's a revolution, it's just like a surgery phase, whereby there's an healing phase. And healing phase is even more painful than the main injury itself. Did you know that? It's going to work out. Trait is global.
Death rate is what
It's global. Death rate is global.
Death rate.
Yes.
So are you saying?
All right, so y'all just seen that corny ass shit.
Statements like this make a Nigerian who is living in the Nigerian reality feel like they've actually gone crazy. And what is more annoying is when people use this to back up support the current administration. But in reality, it is true. The IMF, the World Bank, is actually recording increased rates of GDP and economic growth, but this is not being translated into the average life of the Nigerian that is working. In fact, suffering is tripling, doubling, and quadrupling by the second. So what is the reason for this disconnect? The primary sector, which is things like extraction of minerals, mining, agriculture, and the informal sector, which is all the stuff like hawking on the street, make up the largest part of Nigeria's economy. And the issue with that is that it only contributes 22 to 26% of Nigeria's GDP, but takes up 60% of the labor workforce. On the other hand, we have the tertiary and the quaternary sectors. Tertiary sectors is like services, Globalcom, Bolt and all that, while the quaternary sector is like, the tech bros, fintech, startups, all those stuff. And the issue is that these sectors are growing. They are growing fast and they're growing big and large. And then this poses a problem because the quaternary sector, which is all the techie stuff, requires capital, which is machinery, computers, not labor, which is humans, which they would employ. And for these reasons, the growth in this sector does not translate to more jobs being made or more income for the Nigerian workers. So wealth concentrates in this area. And for the tertiary sectors, in Nigeria, there is structural unemployment where a lot of Nigerians do not have the skills, hands-on skills, to be productive in these tertiary sectors. Nonetheless, the tertiary sector continues to produce more, contribute to the GDP, and so this is where most of this whole Nigeria's economy is growing talk is actually coming from, the tertiary and quaternary sector. So in economic theory, there's this model called the Lewis model that kind of looks like Nigeria right now. And then in this model, there is a large agricultural sector that doesn't contribute as much to the country's economy, whereas there is a smaller tertiary and quaternary sector that is contributing a whole lot more to the economy. Eventually, in this model, there's meant to be a surplus of labor in the primary sector. There's too much people in the primary sector, and so they should spill out into the tertiary and quaternary sectors because these sectors are becoming more productive. They're producing more, making more money, and so they should be able to hire more people and all that stuff, right? But almost always, economic theory literally doesn't apply to Nigeria, and here it doesn't apply again. In Nigeria, these sectors are capital intensive, machinery, not human labor. And so, in reality, growth in these sectors does not make it possible for more farmers to be able to move from the primary sector to the tertiary sector. It might do it to some extent, but not in a way that it is notable for most Nigerians to reap the fruits of this economic boom, and so they are left behind. And even if they happen to move from those primary sectors to the higher paying tertiary sectors, with the way prices are skyrocketing following the floating of the Naira and the removal of fuel subsidy in 2023, which I agree were needed procedures to be taken, but without any precautions or social safety nets, people have basically been left to free fall and can barely afford anything, even with their increased wage rates or higher salaries. Still, transportation, fuel, food, they've all skyrocketed, and so Nigerians have zero purchasing power, cost of living worsens, and so do standard of living. And yes, there will still be people that would argue and say that this is only a phase and that it has to get worse to get better. But even with the way Excel was saying that death is everywhere, it's obvious that this take comes from a lack of empathy. This is real human cost. Real humans dying every day because their government is failing them. And may I add that these economic benefits are not even for sure. Like, we really may not even see these economic benefits that you are talking about so much. The question now is, what are you doing now, in the moment? How are we supporting Nigerians that are going through it today? We can't just keep letting people die for a hope of some better future when people are already living in hell right now at the moment. To be completely frank, yes, there have been talks of different policies, initiatives that the government wants to start to reduce poverty, reduce this and reduce that. But in reality, there is little to no enforcement. Nigerians aren't seeing this in their real everyday lives. It's all talk. It is the poorest, most disadvantaged Nigerians that are suffering the most. And yet, those at the top keep telling us to be patient. Nigeria needs new reforms and needs new reforms now. We need human-centered policy, human-centered lawmakers, and human-centered government. If truly this is only a phase for us to get better, then at the very least, the government could have provided precautions and procedures to cushion the impact on the average Nigerian, and not as an afterthought, not after the removal of fuel subsidy or the floating of the naira, but beforehand, to make sure that the effects are not as terrible as they are right now. These GDP numbers mean nothing and prove nothing, as it doesn't actually reflect on the life of the average Nigerian, and so are not effective to show that a government is effective. Yeah.